My estranged mother who abandoned us. Came back after 20 years and asked me to co-sign a loan. When I refused, she told everyone I was bitter and unforgiving. Then I found out she'd tried the same thing with my brother months before. I was 7 years old when my mother left. Not for a trip. Not for a break. She packed her things into 2 suitcases one Sunday afternoon and walked out of the front door like she was going to the grocery store. No hug. No explanation. Not even a goodbye. I remember asking my dad where she went later that night, and he just looked hollow. He didn't answer me right away. He just said she needed to go. I didn't understand what that meant at the time. I thought maybe she was sick, or that she'd come back in a few days when she cooled off. But she never did. That was it. My mom, the woman who used to braid my hair, who knew how I liked my cereal, who used to sing to herself while doing dishes, just vanished. One day, she was in every corner of our home, and the next she was a ghost that haunted the silence. My brother was 10. He took it harder than I did. He got angrier, quicker. I just got quiet. I used to sit on the floor of her empty closet when no one was home. It still smelled like her perfume for a while. Eventually, it didn't smell like anything. My dad did the best he could, honestly. He worked full-time and tried to hold everything together. But we were poor, tired, emotionally scrambled. He wasn't perfect, but he showed up. Even when she didn't. He never talked badly about her, which I both respect and resent. I think part of me needed to hate her, and he wouldn't let me. The older I got, the more questions I had. Not just why she left, but how. How do you walk away from your children and start a new life like we were nothing more than a bad dream you decided to wake up from? She never reached out. No letters, no birthday cards, no calls. I used to check the mailbox for her handwriting on my birthday for the first 5 or 6 years. Nothing ever came. Eventually, I stopped looking. And yet, the strange part is that her absence shaped my life even more than her presence ever did. Every school play, every graduation, every time a teacher said, "Ask your mom," it reopened the wound. People would ask about her, and I'd lie. She lives out of state. She travels a lot. We're not that close. What I meant was, she left, and she never came back, and I stopped letting myself hope that she ever would. Over the years, I built a life without her. I graduated, got a job, moved out. I became my own parent in a lot of ways. My brother and I stayed close, though we didn't talk about her much. It was like an unspoken rule. If we didn't say her name, she couldn't hurt us anymore. 20 years passed, and then, out of nowhere, with no warning, no apology, no explanation, she came back. It started with a Facebook message. Out of all the possible ways to come back into someone's life after 20 years, she picked Facebook Messenger. No warning, no "I'm sorry." Just a message request from a name I hadn't seen since I was a kid. "Hi, I know this is unexpected. I'd really like to talk to you, if you're open to it." Just one sentence. No context, no emotion, no explanation. My heart dropped into my stomach when I saw it. I stared at that message for an hour before even opening it. My hands were shaking. My brain was doing this weird mental gymnastics. Like, maybe it's a scam. Maybe it's someone pretending to be her. But it was her. Same name. Same face. Older. Obviously. Her profile picture looked like it had been taken at some kind of MLM networking brunch. Blazer, perfect hair, the kind of forced smile that doesn't quite reach the eyes. I couldn't stop staring at it. She looked like a stranger who just happened to have my cheekbones. I didn't respond. I showed it to my brother first. His reaction. He just stared for a long time and said, "Why now?" That was the million-dollar question. She'd been gone our entire childhood. Missed birthdays, school dances, graduations, hospital visits, hard nights, good days, everything. Never once checked in, never once asked how we were doing. She missed her own mother's funeral, 20 years of silence. And now she wanted to talk? I waited 2 days before answering. I wrote,
"Talk about what?"
Her response came quickly. "I want to reconnect. I've changed. I've done a lot of healing and I want to make amends." Healing? She said it like it was some kind of spiritual badge she'd earned. As if her healing was the only part that mattered. As if we were just waiting in suspended animation, ready to rejoin her once she decided she was whole again. She wanted to meet for coffee. Somewhere quiet, no pressure, she said. I said no. I told her if she had something to say, she could say it in a message first. I wasn't going to play family reunion after 2 decades of being ghosted like a forgotten tab on a browser. So she messaged me again, this time longer. She talked about how she'd been in a bad place when she left. how she wasn't capable of being the mother we needed, and how she had a lot of regret. She said she'd thought about me and my brother every day, but didn't know how to come back. She ended with, "I know I hurt you. I'm not asking for anything except the chance to talk. I just want to start again." And I wanted to believe her. Part of me, the part that still carried 7-year-old me, desperately wanted to believe her. Wanted to think maybe she'd changed. Maybe there was a version of this story where the damage could be undone. But I also know what manipulation looks like. What guilt wrapped in sweetness sounds like. What timing means when it comes to people like her. Because as nice as the message sounded, something about it felt off. Like she wasn't telling me the whole truth. Like this wasn't just about making peace. And I was right. It didn't take long before she told me what she really wanted. It didn't take long. We exchanged maybe 4 messages, surface-level ones, before the conversation took a sharp turn. She was doing the whole, "I just want to rebuild a relationship" routine, telling me she was proud of me for everything I'd done despite the circumstances, asking vague questions about my life now. I kept my answers brief, guarded. I wasn't ready to open up, but I wasn't ready to slam the door either. Then one night, I got a longer message. At first, it looked like another emotional monologue, the kind she was getting good at, full of words like regret, healing, and growth. But buried in the middle was this line: "I've been trying to get approved for a small business loan, but my credit isn't great because of some things from years ago. I hate to ask this, but I could really use someone to co-sign, just to help me get started. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important." I reread it 3 times. My stomach dropped. There it was, the real reason she came back. All the carefully chosen words, the feigned vulnerability, the "I've changed" tour, all of it was a soft lead-in to a favor. A big one. A financial one. I just stared at the screen in disbelief. 20 years of silence, abandonment, and ghosting, and the first thing she asks for is my name on a loan? My first thought, she really thinks I'm that desperate for a mother. And then the flood came. The guilt-trippy follow-ups back to back. "You're the only one I can trust with this. It's not a big deal. Just a signature. It won't affect you. I'll be making all the payments. I know I wasn't there, but I'm trying now. Isn't that worth something? We're family." That last one hit me like a slap. We're family. She said it like it meant something. Like the last 20 years didn't count. Like she hadn't walked away from being family the moment she chose to disappear. It made me realize she didn't come back because she missed me. She didn't want to rebuild anything. She wanted access, leverage. My adulthood was her golden ticket. My name, my stability. That's what she was here for. I took a breath and wrote back as calmly as I could. "You haven't been in my life for 2 decades. I'm not comfortable tying my finances to someone I don't know. I hope you understand." She didn't. She waited a full day before replying, and then unleashed a new kind of message. Colder, sharper. The emotional warmth was gone. She didn't yell, but she didn't have to. Her words were icy and clipped. "I see. I was hoping you wouldn't still be so bitter. I thought you'd have grown past this by now. I guess forgiveness isn't in your vocabulary." And just like that, I was the villain in her story. Not her, the woman who left her children and disappeared for 20 years. Me, the person who dared to set a boundary, who said no, who refused to be emotionally blackmailed. And then the cherry on top. She started telling people, family, distant relatives, old neighbors, anyone who would listen, that she tried to reconnect, that she was met with hostility, that I was cold, ungrateful, bitter, that all she wanted was a second chance, and that I wouldn't let her move on from her mistakes. But here's the kicker. She forgot that I have a brother, and what she didn't know is that she'd already tried this exact same thing with him months before. After she accused me of being bitter and lacking forgiveness, I didn't respond. I didn't lash out. I didn't send a dramatic follow-up message. I just sat with it for a few days, not because I was unsure of what to say, but because I needed to process the whiplash. The emotional 180, the way she shifted so effortlessly from tearful regret to calculated guilt when I didn't give her what she wanted. Then the texts from extended family started rolling in. An aunt I barely spoke to messaged me with, "I heard from your mom. She's trying to reconnect. You should give her a chance. People change." A cousin I haven't seen in years posted some vague "forgiveness is freedom" meme on Facebook, clearly directed at someone. I started seeing her name pop up again, my mother, in places I didn't expect. Little mentions, awkward questions from people who had never been there for us when she first disappeared, but now suddenly had thoughts about healing and rebuilding family. I felt like I was being painted into the villain of a redemption story that wasn't even real. That's when I called my brother. He lives in another state now. We don't talk constantly, but when something big happens, we check in. I told him everything. The message, the loan request, the guilt trip, the fallout. And after I finished, there was a long pause on the phone. Then he said, "Wait, she asked you too?" I sat up straight. "What do you mean?" She messaged me back in February. Same thing. Said she wanted to reconnect, played the long-lost mom routine. Then she asked me to co-sign a car loan. I felt my jaw actually drop. "You're kidding." "Nope." Said it was just a signature and that she was trying to rebuild her life. I told her no. She called me ungrateful and said she hoped I'd grow up someday. Then she blocked me. That was it. That was the confirmation I didn't know I needed. This wasn't a one-time thing. This wasn't some emotional olive branch gone wrong. This was calculated. She had a playbook, an approach, a pattern. Step 1, find your adult children. Step 2, apologize vaguely. Step 3, make emotional appeals. Step 4, ask for money. Step 5, if they say no, flip the narrative and make them the bad guy. It wasn't about reconnecting. It wasn't about regret. It wasn't about family. It was about access. She tried it on him first. It didn't work. So, she tried me next. And when I said no too, suddenly we were both cold, bitter, selfish kids who couldn't forgive their poor, struggling mother. The irony? We could have forgiven her, not trusted her, not handed over our lives, but forgiven her. If she had come back without expectations, without manipulation, and without a price tag. But she didn't come back for us. She came back for what we could give her. That realization hurt more than I expected. Not because I missed her, but because I finally let go of the tiny, childlike hope that maybe one day she'd come back and mean it. She didn't. She came back with a pitch and a target list. And I was second in line. After the call with my brother, I sat there staring at the wall with a million thoughts running through my head. All sharp, all angry, all exhausting. She'd played us both. And now she was painting herself as the victim in a story she abandoned 2 decades ago. The part that hit me the hardest? She wasn't content with just failing us. She wanted to control the story of her failure, too. And the worst part? Some people were buying it. Over the next couple of weeks, the family drama started trickling in. Quietly. Not all at once. Not in confrontations. That would have been easier. This was subtler. Side messages, concerned tones, passive-aggressive questions disguised as support. "Your mom's really trying now, isn't she?" "She made mistakes, sure, but haven't we all?" "She says she's proud of you, you know. She talks about you like you're still her little girl." And then came the line that made me want to put my phone through a wall. "She's your mother." That phrase, those 3 words. Like that title means she gets to walk in 20 years later and pick up a relationship like it was on pause. Like she hadn't let 2 children grow up motherless, while she went off and lived a whole second life without a thought for the one she left behind. Let me be very clear. Being a parent is not a title. It's not just biology. It's a role. It's action. It's presence. It's showing the hell up. She didn't show up. She left. And now she wanted the benefits of a title she gave up the moment she walked out the door. I was done being quiet. I wrote a message. It wasn't angry. It wasn't long. But I sent it to a few of the relatives who had been gently pressuring me to let her in. I wrote, she didn't leave because she was struggling. She left because she wanted to. She didn't reach out for 20 years. Not one birthday. Not one letter. Not when Grandma died. Not when I graduated. Not once. She came back because she wanted me to co-sign a loan. When I said no, she called me bitter. She did the same to my brother. That's not someone trying to make amends. That's someone trying to cash in. Please don't ask me to forgive what hasn't been apologized for. Some people didn't respond. Some said, "Wow, I didn't know." Some offered quiet apologies. One person, my uncle, sent me back a single sentence that actually made me cry. "You're right. You don't owe her anything." That's all I needed. Of course, not everyone took it that well. One aunt wrote back, "You're old enough to understand now. Don't you think it's time to let it go?" And to that I say, understanding isn't the issue. I do understand. I understand exactly who she is now. And that's why I'm not letting her back in. Understanding doesn't always lead to forgiveness. Sometimes it leads to boundaries. It's funny. They say time heals all wounds, but I've learned that's only true when something good happens during that time. Like effort. Like ownership. Like growth that isn't transactional. 20 years passed, and not once did she reach for us until she needed a signature. That wasn't healing. That was convenience. She thought we were still the scared kids she left behind. But we're not. We grew up. We healed without her. We became whole people in spite of her absence. And now that she's here, it's too late for performative apologies and weaponized guilt. We didn't ask for her to come back. And we sure as hell don't owe her a soft place to land. I knew I had to say something. Not to change her, not to fix anything. Not because I owed her a response, but because I needed to stop carrying her silence like it was my responsibility. After everything. The lies, the guilt trips, the phone calls from relatives, the back and forth about how cold I was. I sat down and wrote her the one message I knew she would never expect. One that didn't beg for answers. One that didn't ask for closure. One that didn't try to make her see anything. Just truth, on my terms. You don't get to come back after 2 decades and pretend you were ever here. You weren't. You left, and we survived without you. You chose yourself. Fine. But you don't get to make us the villains now because we won't give you access to what you abandoned. You want forgiveness? That's not something you demand. That's something you earn, and you haven't even tried. You asked for my trust, then called me bitter when I said no. That tells me everything I need to know. I don't hate you, but I also don't need you, and I won't be speaking to you again. I stared at it for a long time before I hit send. Not because I was scared of her response, but because I knew this was it. The real ending. And I meant every single word. She saw the message within 5 minutes, left it on read. No reply, no essay, no rage, no tears, just silence, again. At first, I felt a pang of disappointment, which surprised me. Somewhere deep down, I think part of me still hoped she'd break the pattern. Say, I'm sorry. Admit to something. Anything. But she didn't. She stayed true to herself, present just long enough to ask for something, then gone the second she didn't get it. And in a weird way, that was freeing. Because it finally proved what I had suspected all along. It was never about me. It was never about making things right. It was about what I could offer. And once I said no, my value disappeared. It's funny. All my life I thought I was holding on to the pain of her leaving. But I wasn't. I was holding on to the possibility that she might one day come back and mean it. That message let me let go of that too. I told my brother. He just nodded and said, "Good. She doesn't deserve a second version of the story." And that was the moment I stopped feeling like the angry child in someone else's sad novel. I wasn't the antagonist. I wasn't the reason she left. I wasn't bitter. I was honest. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for her to show up. I was already gone. After I sent that message, I expected something. Even if it was silence, I expected it to feel different than the 20 years of silence that came before. And honestly, it did. Because this time the silence wasn't hers. It was mine. It was chosen. It was deliberate. It was freedom. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I was holding my breath, waiting for a mother-shaped hole to be filled. I didn't feel like a walking open wound. I didn't feel like someone who needed to be understood by the person who hurt me most. I felt clear. And clarity is underrated. It's not flashy. It doesn't come with fireworks. It comes in small, quiet ways. Like the first time someone said, "Tell me about your family," and I didn't flinch. Like when I deleted her messages without rereading them. Like when I realized I had no idea what she was doing anymore. And didn't need to know. I stopped tracking her story and started writing mine. I focused on the people who had shown up. My brother, who carried his own pain but still made space for mine. A few friends who never said, "But she's your mom." A therapist who looked me in the eye and said, "You don't have to forgive someone to be free." I threw myself into work, into healing, into journaling the thoughts I'd never had space for. I stopped performing the role of emotionally evolved child of abandonment and started letting myself feel things that weren't pretty. I felt grief, not just for her, but for me. For the version of myself who grew up thinking maybe she just wasn't lovable enough to stay for. I felt rage. Not fire-breathing rage, but the deep, old kind. The kind that lives in your bones. The kind that comes from being expected to be grateful for surviving something someone else caused. But most of all, I felt relief. Relief that I didn't have to keep pretending. Relief that saying no didn't make me cruel. Relief that I was done rehearsing the perfect sentence that might make her understand. Because some people won't understand. Not because you're wrong, but because they're not trying to. And when you stop chasing their understanding, something beautiful happens. You start understanding yourself. I learned to recognize love that doesn't come with a hook. I learned to trust my instincts, especially the ones that said, "This feels off." I learned to stop romanticizing reconciliation that required me to shrink. I built a life that didn't revolve around her shadow. One where I'm not someone's backup plan or redemption project. One where I get to decide who gets access to me. And if that makes me bitter, then let me be sweet to myself. Here's what I've learned. Just because someone shares your DNA doesn't mean they deserve access to your life. Just because someone created you doesn't mean they showed up for you. And just because they come back doesn't mean they've changed. There's this idea people cling to, that family is family. That blood means something. That if a parent says they want to reconnect, you're supposed to open the door without hesitation. You're supposed to forgive. Be grateful. Be healed enough to forget. But that's not healing. That's performing healing so everyone else stays comfortable. Real healing is messier, angrier, quieter. Real healing is setting boundaries that people won't understand. It's saying no and letting them call you bitter. And choosing peace anyway. I don't hate my mother. I don't wish her harm. I don't replay arguments in my head. I don't carry that ache the way I used to. But I also don't owe her a damn thing. She left. She chose herself. Maybe she had reasons. Maybe she didn't. I've stopped needing to know. Because my healing doesn't depend on her explanation. It never did. When she came back after 20 years, I thought maybe, there was a version of the story where we could sit across from each other and talk about what happened. Not perfectly, not tearfully, but honestly. Instead, she asked for my name on a loan. And when I said no, she weaponized forgiveness like it was something I owed her. So here's what I would say to anyone who's in that place. The kid inside you still waiting for the knock at the door, the apology, the reason. You don't have to open the door just because they finally showed up. You don't have to set yourself on fire to warm someone who left you in the cold. You don't have to sacrifice your peace to protect their feelings. You are not bitter. You are not cruel. You are not wrong for protecting yourself. You are allowed to walk away from people who only want you when you're useful. And you don't need to feel guilty for building something beautiful without them. Because you did, you survived. And that alone is more than they'll ever deserve to take credit for. That's the end of the story. But for me, it was the beginning of something better. My life. On my terms. No signatures required.